My wife was leaving to spend a year in the middle of nowhere, working on a charity project in memory of her dead male best friend. She called a promise. I smiled and said okay. The moment she left, I turned around and married a billionaire heiress who was actually my equal. 1 year later, she returned, travel-worn and exhausted. When she saw my new wife beside me, smiling like a flower in bloom, she broke. "Lucas, I'm leaving tonight." Victoria Sterling slid a signed document across the table toward me, her tone flat, devoid of emotion, as if she were notifying me of a business transaction that had nothing to do with her. I looked down. My gaze landed on the bold words, separation agreement. The duration, 1 year. Where are you going? To Blackwood Ridge. My heart skipped a beat. Blackwood Ridge. That was the hometown of Julian Cross, her childhood sweetheart, her one that got away, her best friend. Julian had died in a climbing accident a month ago. Victoria looked at me, her beautiful eyes frosted over with ice. She seemed satisfied by my momentary silence, a mocking sneer tugging at the corner of her mouth. Julian's greatest wish was to build a charity school in his hometown. Now that he's gone, I have to finish it for him. So, I'm going there to volunteer as a teacher for a year and supervise the construction. Consider it, walking him through the final leg of his journey. Walking him through the final leg. She certainly had a way with words. A married woman, going to mourn another man for a year. I looked at her. This woman, my wife of 3 years, the youngest female CEO of a listed company in New York, always wore this air of superiority. In her eyes, I, Lucas Vance, was nothing but a waste of space. A man who lived off her spent his days gardening, studying recipes, and brewing homemade mead. A qualified, kept husband was supposed to obey her every decision unconditionally. Read the agreement. You can stay in this villa. I'll wire $50,000 to your account every month for living expenses, she added, her tone dripping with the arrogance of charity. Don't call me. The signal there is terrible. And don't get any funny ideas. You know what I'm capable of. I picked up the pen. Without reading a word, I signed my name at the bottom. Lucas Vance. The signature was clean and sharp. Victoria froze. She probably thought I would question her, get angry, or beg her not to go like a pathetic dog wagging its tail. But I didn't. I just looked up and gazed at her calmly. Is there anything else? If not, I'm going to cook. Consider it a farewell meal. My calmness thoroughly ignited her anger. She stood up abruptly, looking down at me with contempt that nearly overflowed from her eyes. Lucas, you really are a spineless coward. I thought you'd have at least a shred of masculinity, but you don't even dare to ask a single question. Julian and I were purely platonic. Unlike you, whose brain is filled with filth. Rest assured, I will be back in a year. When the time comes, we will still be husband and wife. But if you dare to do anything to betray me during this time. She paused, every word striking like an ice pick. I will make sure you leave with nothing but the clothes on your back, your reputation in ruins. I pulled the corner of my mouth into a smile, but said nothing. Her threats sounded like a joke to me. Seeing that I was impervious, she felt like she had punched a pile of cotton. Her emotions had nowhere to go. Finally, she just scoffed. Suit yourself. She turned, grabbed her pre-packed suitcase, and left the house without looking back. The heavy front door slammed shut, separating two worlds. I sat quietly in the empty living room, sensing the lingering scent of her cold, expensive perfume in the air. 1 minute, 2 minutes. Not until the scent had completely dissipated did I slowly pick up my phone and dial a number. The call was answered almost instantly. Boss. From the other end came a steady, respectful voice. It was my right-hand man, Arthur. Arthur. I leaned back on the sofa, shifting into a comfortable position, my voice lazy. Initiate Plan B. Yes, boss. Arthur's voice held a trace of suppressed excitement. Titanium has been dormant for 3 years. It's time the world remembered its name. Also, the gift you ordered has been delivered to the Hart estate. Good, I responded. Tell the Hart family I will pay them a visit personally tomorrow. Understood. Hanging up the phone, I walked into the kitchen and put on an apron. The refrigerator was stocked with fresh truffles and Australian Wagyu. Victoria hated these things. She always said food was merely fuel and caring about it was a waste of time. But I liked it. I seared a top-tier steak for myself and poured a glass of the vintage mead I had been fermenting for 3 years. The aroma was rich, the meat tender. This was the taste of freedom. I, Lucas Vance, 27 years old. To the outside world, I was the Sterling family's live-in son-in-law, a freeloader who had achieved nothing. But no one knew that 3 years ago, I was the mysterious predator of Wall Street, codenamed Hades. The titanium group I built with my own hands was powerful enough to turn Victoria's proud listed company into dust overnight. 3 years ago, I grew tired of the numbers game and just wanted to find a place to lay low and live a normal life. Coincidentally, old man Sterling, an old friend of my grandfather, approached me. He said his granddaughter, Victoria, had too strong a personality and needed a gentle husband to balance her out. He hoped I would marry into the family. I looked at the offer. Wasn't this the lying flat lifestyle I wanted? So I hid my identity, washed my hands of the business, and married Victoria. I thought life would be plain and warm, as I imagined. I was wrong. In Victoria's eyes, my lying flat was a lack of ambition, and my gentleness was cowardice and incompetence. For 3 years, she never looked me in the eye. She didn't know that every time her company survived a crisis, my shadow was behind it. She didn't know that the business titan she idolized had to respectfully call me Mr. Vance when they saw me. She knew nothing. She only knew her beloved Julian was dead, and she had to go honor his legacy. Phoenix, since she wanted to fulfill her deep affection, I would help her fulfill it. It was just that, in a year when she came back, this home might not be one she could return to just because she wanted to. The next day, I slept until I woke up naturally. Sunlight poured through the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, plating the floor in gold. Without Victoria here, the house seemed much warmer. I changed into comfortable casual wear. Dismissing the driver, I drove a low-profile electric sedan out the gate myself. Destination: the Hart Estate. The Hart family, like the Sterlings, was one of New York's top-tier wealthy families, but their style was completely different. The Sterlings were flashy, desperate for the world to know their wealth and status. The Harts were much more low-key, the kind of true, old-money dynasty with deep roots. I had a sort of arranged marriage pact with the Hart family's daughter, Sophie Hart. It was a joke made by my grandfather and old man Hart years ago. Later, both families tacitly stopped mentioning it, but the friendship remained. Now that I had decided to stop lying flat, the Harts were the best partners for an alliance. The Hart estate was located in a secluded garden district in the city center, quiet amidst the noise. When I arrived, old man Hart, Sophie's parents, and Sophie herself were already waiting at the door. "Lucas, my boy, you're finally here." Old man Hart was in high spirits, gripping my hand with considerable strength. "Grandpa Hart, long time no see. You're still as tough as ever," I replied with a smile. Sophie's parents nodded to me, their gazes warm, lacking any of the scrutiny and pickiness of the Sterling family. My gaze finally landed on Sophie. She was wearing a pale yellow dress today, her long hair draped over her shoulders, a shallow smile on her face. She looked like a sunflower, warm and bright, the polar opposite of Victoria's icy demeanor. "Lucas," she spoke softly, her voice sweet, carrying a hint of imperceptible shyness. "Sophie, you're getting more beautiful every day. I pray sincerely." Her cheeks flushed slightly, and she lowered her head. All right, let's not stand in the doorway. Come inside and talk." Old man Hart pulled me inside. In the living room, the scent of tea filled the air. After we sat down, old man Hart got straight to the point. "Lucas, Arthur told me everything about your situation. That Sterling girl must be blind." I smiled. "It's all in the past, Grandpa Hart. I came today to propose." One sentence silenced the entire living room. Sophie snapped her head up, her doe-like eyes filled with shock. Immediately, that shock was replaced by immense joy, her cheeks turning red enough to bleed. Sophie's parents looked at each other, clearly a bit surprised as well. Old man Hart laughed heartily. "Good lad. I like your decisiveness. I thought you'd be hemming and hawing all day." He looked at his granddaughter, his eyes full of doting affection. "Sophie, what do you say?" Sophie clutched the hem of her dress, her fingertips white with tension, but she mustered her courage and nodded, her voice as quiet as a mosquito's buzz. "I do." And so it was settled. Incredibly fast, yet perfectly logical. The Hart family needed a powerful ally to consolidate their status, and I needed a brand new identity to completely bid farewell to the past. Sophie was the best choice. Moreover, I didn't dislike this girl. In fact, I liked her somewhat. Her warmth was something I had never felt with Victoria. Leaving the Hart house, Sophie insisted on walking me out. We walked side by side on the garden path, sunlight dappling through the leaves. "Lucas," she suddenly spoke, "are you really sure? I heard you and Miss Sterling haven't divorced yet." "We'll be divorced very soon." I looked at her and said seriously, "Sophie, I know this decision is rushed, but I'm serious. I will give you a grand wedding and make you the happiest bride in the world. I won't let you suffer a single grievance." She stopped walking and looked up at me, her eyes sparkling. I believe you, she said. Actually, I've been waiting for you for a long time. My heart stirred. When I was in high school, I saw photos of you as a child in Grandpa's study. You know, the kind where you were running around in diapers. She laughed as she spoke, her eyes curving into crescents. From then on, I always pestered Grandpa, asking about you. He said you went abroad and were very, very impressive. Later, when I heard you came back and married Miss Sterling, I was sad for a long time. Lucas, I'm not willing to marry you because you're the boss of Titanium. Even if you were still the wasteful kept husband everyone talks about, I would still be willing. Her gaze was sincere and passionate, like a fire burning bright. I felt my heart being scalded by this flame. I reached out and gently touched her cheek. Her skin was delicate and warm, trembling slightly. Sophie, I leaned down, bringing my lips close to her ear, my voice low. From now on, don't call me Lucas. Then, what should I call you? Her breathing became erratic with nervousness. Call me hubby. I kissed her flushed earlobe. She shuddered, her whole body softening into my arms. So sweet. In 3 years of marriage to Victoria, our most intimate moments were nothing more than perfunctory pecks, filled with a businesslike distance. Holding this warm, soft woman in my arms, I felt for the first time that marriage might actually be a good thing, as long as you chose the right person. My marriage to Sophie was finalized with maximum speed. The day we got our license, the clerk at City Hall looked at us with eyes full of blessings. A talented man and a beautiful woman, a match made in heaven. Sophie held a red folder, looking at it over and over, the smile on her small face never fading. Lucas, we are legally husband and wife now. She leaned in and planted a loud kiss on my cheek. I pinched her nose. Yes, Mrs. Vance. She smiled even happier. I pressed her against the red brick wall outside City Hall, lowered my head, and gave her a deep kiss. She responded clumsily, her hands tightly clutching my clothes. Not far away, some young girls covered their mouths and let out quiet squeals. Oh my God, that's so sweet. At this moment, I was incredibly grateful for my decision. Life after marriage with Sophie was exactly as I had envisioned, perhaps even better. We moved into a penthouse apartment I owned in the city center. The view was excellent, overlooking the entire city's night skyline. I had Arthur hire someone to clear out the Villa Victoria left me and put on the market. Everything belonging to Victoria and me needed to be zeroed out. Sophie was a girl full of zest for life. She would drag me to the supermarket, agonizing over choices in the snack aisle for ages before buying a huge pile of chips and chocolate. She would stay in the kitchen with me. I cooked, and she handed me plates. When I wasn't looking, stole a piece of freshly cut meat, squinting with satisfaction like a cat that got the cream. Hubby, your cooking is too good. Better than a 3-star Michelin restaurant. This was her catchphrase every day. She also took a keen interest in my wine cellar. Wow, so much liquor. Did you brew all of this? She looked at the rows of labeled jars and bottles, stars in her eyes. Yeah, just something I do when I'm bored. Can I taste it? She blinked her big eyes, full of anticipation. I picked a bottle of peach-infused bourbon with the shortest fermentation time and poured her a small glass. She mimicked me, sniffing at first, then taking a small sip. Instantly, her face scrunched up. It's spicy. I laughed at her cuteness, took her glass, and drank it in one gulp. It's bourbon, of course it's spicy. Then why do you drink it all the time? She pouted. You don't understand. This is a man's joy. I tapped her nose. She wasn't convinced. She snatched the glass back, poured herself another, and downed it. The result was predictable. 1 cup as she was down. Her face was flushed red, her eyes glassy, and she slumped into my arms, muttering, I'm not drunk. I shook my head helplessly, picked her up in a princess carry, and took her back to the bedroom. She was light. I could lift her with one arm. The woman in my arms rubbed against me restlessly, her arms wrapping around my neck as she murmured, Hubby abs. Want a touch? Her small hand began to wander naughtily under the hem of my t-shirt. My body stiffened, a heat rushing through my veins instantly. This little temptress. I grabbed her mischievous hand, my voice hoarse. Don't start something? She opened her hazy eyes to look at me, suddenly giggled foolishly, leaned in, and kissed my Adam's apple. My brain buzzed, and the last string of reason snapped. The next day, when Sophie woke up, she buried herself under the covers and refused to come out for a long time. I can't show my face, came her muffled voice. I dug her out of the blankets, looking at her face, which was red enough to bleed, and couldn't help laughing. Now you're shy? Who was holding on to me and refusing to let go last night? Don't say it. She covered my mouth, embarrassed and annoyed. I pulled her hand down and kissed it. Sunlight was perfect. Time was peaceful. I was almost drowning in this tenderness. Meanwhile, far away in Blackwood Ridge, Victoria's life was not going so well. Arthur regularly reported her situation to me. Blackwood Ridge was a notoriously impoverished area in the Appalachians. The mountain roads were rugged, and water and electricity were scarce. Victoria, a pampered heiress, had obviously never suffered like this. On the first day, her designer suitcase broke on the bumpy mountain road. On the second day, she had food poisoning because she wasn't used to the local rough food. On the third day, she was covered in bug bites and couldn't sleep from the itching. She thought about giving up, but the thought of Julian made her grit her teeth and persist. She even called her assistant, ordering them to send generators and premium ingredients. But without exception, my people intercepted everything using various accidents. Landslides on the mountain road, vehicles prohibited, bad weather, helicopters grounded. Victoria, didn't you want to experience life and mourn your dead best friend? Then experience it properly. Don't think about taking shortcuts. I wanted her to taste every bit of hardship, to let her know that without me, the things she took pride in were worthless in the face of true adversity. At the same time, a hashtag called #Lucas Vance didn't wake up today somehow went viral online. The cause was the Titanium Group announcing its return with high-profile moves, shocking the business world with a series of massive acquisitions. Yet, as the helm of Titanium, I never appeared in public. Curious netizens began to dig into my background, only to find my identity as the Sterling family's kept husband and my daily routine of idleness and doing nothing. Thus, this teasing topic was born. Lucas Vance didn't get out of bed today either, but his Titanium Group acquired another Fortune 500 company. Lucas Vance didn't get out of bed today either, but his wife Sophie Hart is trending wearing the multi-million-dollar jewelry he designed. Lucas Vance didn't get out of bed today either, but his cat and Sophie's dog got a marriage license. This topic even drove Titanium Group's stock price to limit up. Arthur was laughing and crying on the phone. "Boss, you are now our company's mascot." I smiled indifferently. Let me be a mascot. As long as Sophie was by my side and my life was comfortable, nothing else mattered. What I didn't know was that this news trickled down through certain channels all the way to Blackwood Ridge, to Victoria's ears. In a drafty shack in Blackwood Ridge, Victoria wrapped herself in a stiff, dirty quilt, listening to her assistant's choppy report over the phone, her face ashen. "What did you say?" "Lucas married Sophie Hart." Her voice was trembling. "Why, yes, Ms. Sterling." The assistant's voice was cautious. "They got their license 6 months ago. The wedding was low-key, but reportedly half of New York's elite attended. Titanium Group is really his. It's absolutely true. The entire business world is discussing it. They're all saying you had eyes but couldn't see, throwing away a dragon." The assistant didn't dare continue. Victoria let out a dry laugh. Laughing and laughing, tears began to stream down her face. Lucas, the man who was worthless in her eyes, the way she thought she could manipulate it will. He was the founder of Titanium, the legendary Hades? Impossible. This had to be fake. It was a smokescreen he put out to force her to come back. Yes, that must be it. He had loved her for so many years. How could he marry someone else so quickly after she left? Sophie, that Hart family girl who only knew how to follow her elders and smile like a doll. What did she have? Victoria gripped her phone tightly, her knuckles turning white from the force. A wave of unprecedented panic and anger swept through her body. She was eating chaff and swallowing vegetables here, enduring inhumane torture, guarding a ridiculous promise for a dead man. Meanwhile, her husband was thriving out there, with a new love, enjoying everything that should have belonged to her. Lucas, how dare you? She sat up abruptly from the bed, a terrifying light bursting from her eyes. No, she couldn't stay here anymore. She had to go back. She had to ask him to his face. She had to snatch back everything that was hers. She didn't believe that 3 years of marriage couldn't outweigh a Sophie Hart he'd known for a few months. However, when she stumbled to the village entrance, she was told that due to continuous torrential rain, the road down the mountain had collapsed. No one knew when it would be fixed. Victoria looked at the muddy, severed mountain road in front of her, and in an instant felt like she had fallen into an ice cave. She didn't know that this timely rainstorm and that fragile mountain road were gifts I'd sent her. Victoria, the 1-year term isn't up yet. The game isn't over. You just stay peacefully in your Blackwood Ridge and properly keep company with your Julian. As for me, I was accompanying my new wife on a vacation at a private vineyard in the south of France. Sunshine, beaches, fine food, and a lover. Sophie was wearing a bikini, swimming like a mermaid in the pool. I lay on a beach chair by the shore, watching her. She swam over to me, propping herself up on the edge of the pool, looking up at me, water droplets sliding down her smooth cheeks. Hubby, what are you thinking about? Thinking about how great my wife's body is. I leaned over and kissed her on the lips. Her face reddened, and she reached out to hook my neck, pulling me down. Then, do you want to come down and swim together? Her voice was seductive. I chuckled lightly and flipped into the water. The splash from the pool kicked up an entire summer's worth of romance. I didn't know that this scene of ours was photographed and uploaded to the internet. The caption of the photo was, "God-tier romance. Titanium boss takes new wife on French vacation. Sweet enough to rot your teeth." This photo, like a heavy bomb, detonated the internet once again. It was also like the sharpest knife, stabbing ruthlessly into Victoria's heart. She looked at the photo on her phone of me holding Sophie and kissing in the pool, looking at the genuinely doting smile on my face that she had never seen before, looking at the priceless custom bikini on Sophie. She couldn't control anymore, letting out a wretched scream and smashing her phone fiercely onto the ground. The screen shattered, just like her riddled heart. 1 year. Not too long, not too short. In Victoria's day-after-day torment, it finally passed. The day the mountain road was repaired, she left Blackwood Ridge as if fleeing for her life. She was thinner, darker. Her originally meticulously maintained skin had become rough, and her eyes held a neurotic paranoia and madness. She didn't go back to the Sterling family home, nor did she go to the company. Instead, she took a taxi directly back to the home she and I used to share, the villa she had left for me to live in. She wanted to give me a surprise. She wanted to let Lucas see that she was back. She wanted to let him know who the mistress of this house was. She had even thought of what to say. She would tell him she knew she was wrong, that she missed him very much this past year. She would lower her posture and beg for his forgiveness. She didn't believe Lucas could resist her gentleness. As long as he returned to her side, that little yellow-haired girl Sophie was nothing to fear. However, when the taxi stopped at the entrance of the villa community, security blocked her. "Miss, who are you looking for?" "Victoria Froneth. I'm an owner here." The guard looked at the old ID card in her hand, then looked at her travel-worn appearance, a trace of suspicion in his eyes. "I'm sorry, the owner of this villa is named Vance. He said he does not accept any visitors, especially a woman named Sterling." Victoria's face instantly turned pale. "What did you say? The owner is Vance? I am his wife. His wife is Mrs. Sophie Vance." The guard's tone became impatient. "Miss, if you don't leave, I'm calling the police." Victoria was struck by lightning, frozen in place. She didn't believe it. She rushed inside like a madwoman, only to be restrained by 2 guards. She struggled, screaming like a shrew. "Lucas, get out here. You liar. Get the hell out here." Her voice attracted the onlookers from the neighborhood. Those wealthy wives who used to be respectful to her were now looking at her with expressions of watching a good show, pointing and whispering. "Isn't that the Sterling family's eldest daughter? How did she end up looking like this? I heard she ran off to the mountains for a dead man a year ago, leaving her husband alone at home. Serves her right, leaving a good man like Mr. Vance. Now that he's married the heart heiress, she runs back to make a scene. Truly shameless." Those whispers were like needles stabbing into Victoria's ears. She was shaking all over, angry and humiliated. Just then, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom slowly drove up and stopped at the villa entrance. The door opened. Arthur got out first and respectfully opened the rear door. I held Sophie's hand as we stepped out of the car. I was wearing a tailored Armani suit, and Sophie was in the latest Chanel dress, holding my arm, smiling gently and movingly. We looked like a divine couple just returning from a gala. And Victoria, wearing old clothes covered in mud spots, hair messy, face haggard, was being awkwardly held back by 2 guards. There were less than 10 meters between us, yet it felt like we were separated by a world. Victoria stared at me, her eyes bloodshot. "Lucas." She squeezed the name out through her teeth. I acted as if I had just seen her, raising an eyebrow slightly, revealing a perfectly measured look of surprise. "Ms. Sterling? Why are you here?" My tone was polite, distant, like greeting an unfamiliar business partner. "What did you call me?" Victoria looked at me in disbelief. "We are already divorced, Ms. Sterling." I took out my phone, tapped open a photo, and held it in front of her. "The divorce decree took effect a year ago. Don't you remember? The photo showed our divorce judgment. Court ruling, based on the fact of separation for over 1 year. No. Impossible." Victoria muttered to herself. "The agreement said separation, not divorce." "Oh, is that so?" I feigned a sudden realization. Maybe I remember it wrong, but it doesn't matter. The result is the same anyway. I put away my phone, wrapped my arm around Sophie's waist, lowered my head, and planted a kiss on her forehead, my tone doting. Wifey, let's go home. Sophie nodded obediently, and even gave Victoria a harmless, Victor-like smile. This smile became the final straw that broke Victoria. Ah! She let out a scream, suddenly broke free from the guards, and lunged at Sophie like a madwoman. Bitch, you dare steal my husband. I'll kill you. My face darkened. Subconsciously, I shielded Sophie behind me, raised my leg, and kicked Victoria in the stomach. I used force. She flew backward, crashing heavily onto the ground with a muffled grunt. Victoria. I walked up to her, looking down from above, my eyes cold, devoid of any emotion. For the sake of our past marriage, I'll give you a warning. Sophie is now my wife. If you dare touch a single hair on her head, I don't mind making the entire Sterling family disappear from New York. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried a chilling oppression. Victoria clutched her stomach, curled up on the ground, looking at me in disbelief. The man in front of her was strange, powerful, cold. He was two different people from the gentle, weak Lucas in her memory. She finally realized what she had lost. Victoria was taken away by the Sterling family. It was said that after returning, she fell seriously ill with a high fever that wouldn't break, constantly calling my name. The next day after the market opened, Sterling stocks hit the limit down without warning. Everyone knew Titanium Group had made its move. The Sterling family was in chaos. Victoria's father, my former father-in-law, called me personally. The tone on the phone no longer held the arrogance of the past. Instead, it carried a trace of begging. Lucas, for the sake of past affection, please raise your hand high and let the Sterling family off this once. Victoria. She already knows she was wrong. Oh, she knows she was wrong. I played with Sophie's fingers, asking casually. Sophie was leaning in my arms watching a comedy movie, laughing so hard she was shaking. Yes, she knows she was wrong. She says she shouldn't have gone to Blackwood Ridge, shouldn't have disregarded your feelings. She says she still loves you, as long as you're willing to come back, Stop, I interrupted him. Mr. Sterling, I think you've misunderstood something. First, Victoria and I have no relationship whatsoever. Whether she lives or dies has nothing to do with me. Second, my wife's name is Sophie. I don't wish to hear my name associated with other women from anyone's mouth again. Third, I paused, my voice turning cold. The reason the Sterling family is in this state today isn't because of me. It's because of Victoria. She touched someone she shouldn't have. After speaking, I hung up the phone directly. On the other end, Mr. Sterling sat slumped in his chair, his face the color of death. He knew Lucas was dead set on destroying the Sterling family. The Sterling family was finished. And the instigator of all this, Victoria, upon hearing the news in her hospital bed, pulled out her Ford drip and rushed out of the hospital. She found her way to the base of my office building. This time, she had learned to be smart. She didn't make a scene. She just stood quietly at the main entrance, waiting, from daylight until dark. It started to rain. She stood in the rain, letting the cold water soak her through, as if this would wash away her sins, as if this would soften my heart. Arthur saw this scene through the surveillance cameras and asked me, "Boss, need to handle it?" I was with Sophie in the gym. She was wearing tight yoga clothes, doing a set of stretches, her perfect curves fully on display. I wrapped my arms around her waist from behind, helping her adjust her posture, my palms pressing against her flat lower abdomen, feeling the warmth and firmness there. Ignore her, I said in my Bluetooth headset. If she likes to stand, let her stand. I lower my head and kiss Sophie's sweat-dampened neck. She shrank her neck from the tickle, looking back at me with a reproachful glance, eyes silky with charm. My Adam's apple rolled. I picked her up directly and walked toward the lounge. Downstairs, Victoria shivered in the freezing rain. Upstairs, my wife and I were deep in affection. What an ironic contrast. Victoria stood all night. The next day, she fainted at the company entrance from exhaustion and was taken away by an ambulance. This incident became the latest gossip among the wealthy in New York. Everyone said Victoria brought on herself, was delusional. Someone even dug up her past with Julian Cross, saying she had mentally cheated during her marriage, and ending up like this was pure karma. The Sterling family's reputation plummeted. Victoria became the laughingstock of the entire city. She wasn't resigned to this. After waking up in the hospital, she did something even crazier. She held a press conference. At the conference, she wept with heartbreaking beauty, looking utterly pitiful. Lucas and I had feelings. 3 years of marriage wasn't fake. I admit, Going to teach in Blackwood Ridge for a year without fully considering his feelings was my mistake. I am here to apologize to him. But, Miss Sophie Hart, you shouldn't have taken advantage of a situation to break up our family. Love is a matter between two people. The one who isn't loved is the third party. Lucas, I know you're still angry with me. I beg you, come back, okay? I can't live without you. Our home can't be without you. She wept bitterly into the camera. I had to admit, her acting was excellent. Netizens who didn't know the truth started to be swayed by her rhythm. So was a mistress taking over, disgusting. The ex-wife loves him so much. How can he be so heartless? Men turn bad when they get rich, sure enough. For a moment, public opinion began to shift, targeting me and Sophie. Sophie's phone was nearly blown up by abusive texts and calls. She looked at the vicious comments online, her small face pale, her eyes red. I took her phone and turned it off directly. Don't look at this trash. I pulled her into my arms, comforting her softly. But what they're saying is so ugly. She buried her face in my chest, aggrieved. It's okay. I patted her back. Trust me, hubby will handle it. A glint of cold light flashed in my eyes. Victoria, you really refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Since you like to act, I'll accompany you for a good show. I had Arthur anonymously send a dossier to the biggest media outlet in the city. The next day, an even bigger storm swept through the entire internet. Shocking reversal. Julian Cross did not die accidentally. He mentally controlled Victoria Sterling for years. Exclusive reveal. Behind Victoria's vigil for her soulmate lies a scam woven of PUA and lies. Decoded. The truth behind the titanium boss's divorce. Not a lack of love, but a heart already dead. The information released by the media was detailed to a horrifying degree. Inside were all the chat logs and emails between Julian and Victoria while he was alive. It showed how he brainwashed her step by step, belittling me, elevating himself, molding himself into a perfect, tragic character who loved but could not be with her. It showed how he fabricated the lie that he was terminally ill and didn't have long to live to cheat Victoria out of her sympathy. Even the truth of his mountain climbing accident was exposed. It wasn't an accident at all. It was a fake death staged with his creditors to dodge a massive gambling debt. And his reason for making Victoria go to Blackwood Ridge to mourn for a year was simply to get her out of the way so she wouldn't discover his scam, while simultaneously using the Sterling Group's resources to pave the way for his new life abroad. All the evidence formed a complete loop. The proof was ironclad. Public opinion did a 180-degree turn instantly. The netizens who were sympathizing with Victoria just moments ago now defected, cursing her vehemently. Holy crap, what is this drama of the year? This Julian Cross is a piece of trash. Victoria is an idiot too, played like a fiddle by a man, destroying her own marriage. 3 seconds of sympathy for Boss Vance. Marrying such a wife is really bad luck. Good thing they divorced. Congrats to Boss Vance for escaping the misery. Be happy with Miss Hart. The press conference Victoria held yesterday now looked like a complete joke. Her so-called deep affection, her so-called sacrifice, all became footnotes to a scam. She, Victoria Sterling, the queen of the business world, had thoroughly been reduced to a pathetic and laughable fool played in the palm of man's hand. This blow was more lethal than the Sterling family's bankruptcy, more lethal than me marrying someone else. It destroyed Victoria's last and most prized dignity and intelligence. She locked herself in her room, refusing to eat or drink, refusing to see anyone. The Sterling family collapsed completely. To repay the massive debts, Mr. Sterling had to announce bankruptcy and liquidation. All assets under the Sterling name, including the villa that once belonged to Victoria and me, were seized by the court for auction. The Sterling family fell from the clouds into the mud. When all this happened, I was taking Sophie to a newly opened private kitchen for dinner. This restaurant specialized in classic gastronomy and was hard to book. But with one phone call from me, the owner came out to welcome us personally, reserving the best table for us. Sophie ate with a beaming smile. Hubby, this place is so delicious. How did you find it? As long as you like it. I placed a slice of tranche on her plate. I'll take you here every day from now on. Won't I get fat, like a little pig? I'd love you even if you were. I pinched her cheek. Soft. It feels better to hold. She blushed and glared at me coquettishly. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Arthur. Boss, the Sterling family is bankrupt. Victoria seems to have had a mental breakdown. I glanced at it and deleted the message expressionlessly. What did it have to do with me? From the moment she decided to go mourn another man, she and I were people from 2 different worlds. Her ending was chosen by herself. The only person I needed to be responsible for was this little woman beside me, who gave me her whole heart. After dinner, we walked hand in hand by the river. The evening breeze blew gently, rustling Sophie's hair. "Hubby," she suddenly stopped walking, looking up at me, a trace of caution in her eyes. "Miss Sterling, will she be miserable?" I knew she was soft-hearted. I cupped her face, looking seriously into her eyes. "Sophie, remember this. People who are pitiful usually have hateful qualities. Her ending wasn't caused by us. It was caused by her own choices. I won't make an exception for her, just like countless firsts in my life were given to you. The first time cooking for someone, the first time clumsily learning to coax someone, the first time handing over everything I have without reservation. Everything is only for you. You are the only light in my life." Sophie's eyes reddened. She stood on her tiptoes and kissed me actively. The neon lights by the river turned into the most brilliant background behind us. The Sterling family matter soon became smoke in the wind. In the Vanity Fair of New York, people rose and fell every day. No one remembered a loser forever. My life returned to its proper track. Or rather, returned to the lying flat life I wanted. The daily affairs of the Titanium Group were handled by Arthur and a group of hyper-competitive subordinates. I didn't need to worry about them at all. My daily life was accompanying Sophie. We traveled the world together, watching the sunset in the Aegean Sea, skiing in Hokkaido, watching the animal migration on the African savanna. We researched food together. She was in charge of tasting, I was in charge of creating. I mastered every major cuisine. We curled up on the sofa watching old movies, crying and laughing at the plots. Our pets, a golden retriever named Goldie and a ragdoll cat named Richie, also got along exceptionally well, even clingier than we were. Sophie's belly grew day by day. She was pregnant. This news made the entire Hart family and the Titanium Group boil over. Old Man Hart waved his hand grandly, directly gifting us a private island in the South Pacific as a present for his unborn great-grandchild. I canceled all social engagements to be by her side 24 hours a day. Her pregnancy reactions were severe. She threw up everything she ate. My heart ached terribly. I tried every method to make various appetizing dishes for her. Her legs would cramp at night, so I massaged them for half an hour every night until she fell asleep comfortably. She became very clingy, always liking to hug me, pressing her face against my abs, saying it gave her a sense of security. "Hubby, the baby is kicking me." She would take my hand and place it on her swollen lower abdomen. I could clearly feel the rhythm of the little life inside. At that moment, my heart turned into complete mush. So, this was the feeling of home. Warm, grounded, irreplaceable. One day, I accompanied Sophie to the hospital for a checkup. In a long corridor of the hospital, we unexpectedly ran into someone. Victoria. She was wearing a hospital gown, washed white with age, her hair withered and yellow, her eyes dull. She was being supported by a nurse, doing rehabilitation training, learning to walk. Her leg seemed to have a problem. She saw us too. When her gaze landed on how carefully I was protecting Sophie's belly, she froze. Those hollow eyes were instantly filled with complex emotions: jealousy, regret, resentment. She stared dead at Sophie's belly, her lips trembling, wanting to say something but unable to make a sound. Sophie felt uncomfortable under her gaze and subconsciously shrank into my arms. I pulled her tighter into my embrace, using my body to block Victoria's line of sight, and walked past her without expression. From beginning to end, I didn't spare her a single glance. To me, she was no different from a stranger on the street. As we brushed past, I heard a suppressed, desperate whimper from behind. The sound was like a wounded, trapped beast. But so what? In this world, there are no what-ifs, only consequences and results. I wouldn't look back, because all my tenderness and love had already been given to the person beside me. My past was buried on the day Victoria chose to go to Blackwood Ridge. My future only just began the moment I took Sophie's hand. We walked into the elevator. The doors slowly closed, completely shutting out that miserable figure. Inside the elevator, Sophie looked up at me and asked softly, "Hubby, have you ever regretted it, even a little bit?" I looked down into her clear eyes and smiled. I leaned over, kissing her on the lips, answering her question with action. "Regret? I only regret not meeting you sooner. My Mrs. Vance." Story complete.